I was once told that nothing grows here but dust and hunger. But I've walked this land and seen it whisper back, "Plant me, and I will rise." For years the world viewed Burkina Faso as hopeless. The dry, red earth and endless dust painted a bleak picture. They believed nothing good could ever grow here, that the future would remain a struggle of poverty and suffering. They thought the people would always need help from the outside to survive. But they were wrong. For decades, foreign countries sent ships filled with food aid to Burkina Faso. Wheat, corn, and other grains were meant to feed the people. But there was a deep sadness in this story. This food wasn't grown in Burkina Faso. It came from rich farms on lands taken from people across Africa generations ago. The grain was shipped in big boats and driven into the heart of the country, into small villages where families used to grow everything they needed. The old grandmothers of these villages knew the secrets of the land. They grew food, not only to nourish their families, but to keep their communities strong. Yet, as time passed, this knowledge was forgotten, buried beneath the foreign grain. The food aid was meant to help, but it was also a form of control. When someone else feeds you, they decide what you eat, when you eat, and whether you eat. The aid made the people feel weak, dependent, and incapable of taking care of themselves. It whispered to them every day, "You need us." But something is changing in this land once called a wasteland. A new seed has been planted. And no, it's not just a crop, it's an idea. This idea isn't about fighting wars or taking on more debt from foreign banks. It's about planting bananas. A quiet revolution is happening in Burkina Faso. The government is investing $150 million of its own money into a farming project, not a loan that will need to be repaid, but money invested in its people. This decision is shaking the very foundation of the old system, the system that thrived on dependence. This isn't just about growing bananas. It's about breaking free from the cycle of hunger and foreign control. This is a revolution, and it tastes like the sweetness of a ripe banana grown on your own soil. The familiar white trucks of foreign aid began rolling down the dusty roads again, bringing rice from countries like Thailand and Vietnam. They came with explanations about why people were hungry, global inflation, supply chain issues, and factors beyond anyone's control. But these words felt like excuses. They made people feel powerless, as if their future was completely out of their hands, far from the capital. In a village called C near Bobo-Dioulasso, a different story was unfolding. An old woman named Aminata wasn't watching TV. She was working in her field under the burning sun, kneeling on the cracked earth. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer she hadn't spoken since she was a girl. "You are not dead. You are just waiting for us to remember you." Her grandson Malik was standing by her, but he didn't see the land as Aminata did. To him the land was dry and empty. His future seemed as barren as the earth he stood on. But then something different arrived in the village. It wasn't a white aid truck. It was a dusty car with a man wearing an army uniform. His name was Ibrahim Traoré. A soldier who had recently become the leader of Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré didn't come with promises or speeches. He came with seeds and a listening ear. He sat with the villagers under the mango tree, surrounded by elders, women, and young people like Malik. He asked the question that would change everything. "Mama, before the chemicals and foreign aid, what did you grow here? What did this land give you?" Aminata's face lit up. She remembered the abundance. "We grew bananas. We grew plantains. We grew sorghum, yams, peanuts, and beans. The land was our mother, and she fed us well." That simple conversation became the seed of a revolution. Soon, news spread of Burkina Faso's new farming project. This wasn't being funded by the World Bank or a foreign institution. It was paid for by Burkina Faso's own resources to benefit its people. The plan was simple: take unused land and grow plantains. But why plantains? Because they are an African crop, one that has been eaten on this continent for centuries. And the plantain tree itself is resilient. It can grow even in harsh conditions. The movement spread quickly across the country, from village to village. Ibrahim Traoré stood before 5,000 farmers in Benora, a fertile town, and declared, "For too long, we have been taught to beg for the very things our grandmothers gave us. Freely, we will no longer ask for permission to eat. We will feed ourselves with the crops they tried to make us forget." The response was electrifying. A chorus of voices erupted from the crowd. It wasn't just clapping, it was the sound of a people reclaiming their dignity. People began singing the old songs of their ancestors, songs about the land, the rain, and the harvest. These were the songs that had been forgotten under the weight of dependency. Now they were alive again, as the movement gained momentum. Tractors built locally by young engineers in the capital began to arrive. These weren't foreign machines. They were made by the people of Burkina Faso, for the people. Every seedling was planted by hand, not by machines. The work was personal, meaningful, and rooted in the community. Among the people contributing were Fatou, a mother who sold her only gold earrings to buy compost, and Asaka, a former soldier who used his knowledge to dig irrigation channels for the crops. The spirit of the revolution was shared by all farmers, soldiers, engineers, and even young professionals like Nora, a software engineer who developed an app to help monitor the soil's nutrients. What began as a simple agricultural project soon became a national movement, a rebellion built on the belief that Africa could feed itself. The new fields became symbols of pride and self-reliance. The people were no longer passive recipients of foreign aid. They were active participants in their own future. But just as things began to look hopeful, a drought struck. The rain, which had nurtured the seedlings, disappeared. The soil cracked, and the crops began to wilt. The world began to doubt the movement's viability. Foreign media seized on the drought, declaring the banana revolution a failure. International lenders suggested that Burkina Faso abandon the project and accept foreign aid again. At a crucial summit with his team, Ibrahim Traoré stood firm. "If the trees start to die," he said, "then we must water them with our belief. We will not surrender." The message was clear. If the rain wouldn't come, they would find water themselves. And that's exactly what they did. Local communities dug channels and created small reservoirs. They didn't wait for foreign aid, they built their own future. The first rains finally came. It wasn't a miracle, but it was enough. It proved that their efforts had mattered. The revolution wasn't just about growing bananas. It was about growing hope, pride, and a future where Burkina Faso could stand tall on its own feet. Soon, people across Africa took notice. The revolution spread beyond Burkina Faso's borders, reaching neighboring countries like Mali, Ghana, and Nigeria. Artists carved sculptures of bananas, and youth activists marched, holding up plantains and bananas as symbols of self-reliance. But the revolution didn't stop there. President Traoré led by example, planting a banana tree at the National University. His humility became a symbol of leadership, one that didn't rely on power or wealth but on the hard work of the people. His message was clear: the real power is not me, it is the soil. Burkina Faso's story became an inspiration to other nations across Africa. It wasn't about waiting for help from the outside world, it was about remembering the power within. The people were reclaiming their dignity, and in doing so, they were inspiring the world to do the same. As the movement continued to grow, Burkina Faso's national anthem became the rustling of banana leaves in the wind. The streets of the capital, Ouagadougou, were filled with people celebrating their harvests. Bananas became a symbol of national pride, and the people of Burkina Faso, once seen as the hungry and hopeless, now stood as a beacon of self-determination. This revolution didn't just change the soil, it changed the people. They were no longer victims of aid, they were builders of their own future. And the message was clear to the rest of the world: Africa is capable of feeding itself. It doesn't need to beg. It needs to plant. So, this is the story of a land once thought barren and broken, now alive with the harvest of hope. And it all started with a simple question asked by a leader who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. From the red soil of Burkina Faso, a new future was being built. This is not just the story of one country, it is the story of Africa's future. A future where the land is the leader and the people are its hands. This version of the script keeps the core themes of resilience, revolution, and self-reliance intact while focusing on the journey of Burkina Faso's transformation. The character-driven narrative ties deeply to real-world struggles and aspirations, making it both emotional and inspiring.